go ahead and start with this mask because it's a mask that is so multifaceted and you can use it in almost every single one of your treatments. Unless someone is allergic to one of the ingredients, this is a mask that I use in almost all of my treatments. And when I teach my classes for hyperpigmentation, this is the mask that we use for the anti-hyperpigmentation treatments as well. So let me just start by showing you first how this mask works when you mix it, because this is really quite unique and interesting. So we start with the powder, and we'll talk about all the ingredients in the powder, and then we reconstitute it with the hydrogen peroxide. And so as you see, us mixing this around a little bit, you'll start to notice that the hydrogen peroxide breaks down. It breaks down into H2O, right, to 2 parts hydrogen and also to oxygen. And as the oxygen starts to move out away from the other ingredients, it gets really kind of foamy. And this is also a really great delivery system. So I'll come back to this again here in a second. Let's just watch as we apply the mask to the model's face. This can be a great standalone mask. It can be used in your anti-hyperpigmentation, and look how foamy that is. It can be used in your anti-hyperpigmentation treatments. It can be used just as a spot treatment, over melasma or over solar lentigo or even PIH. And it really has like instant brightening. So let me come back to this again. Let me just stop this here and roll it backwards. So we can talk about some of the really interesting ingredients in all of, in this particular mask. So you know how these ingredients work, because it's so important to have a really good understanding of ingredients and how they each physically, right, and chemically affect the skin physiologically. So just to start off with, so the key ingredients, we have alpha-arbutin, and then I'll break these down. Vitamin C, zinc oxide, sulfur peptides, high hyaluronic acid, allantoin, which comes from comfrey, kaolin, which is actually kind of a white clay from North America, and then live yeast cell derivatives. And the live yeast cell derivative is actually the amazing part that breaks down and kind of creates this, foaming effect. So let's just start by talking about the vitamin C. So the vitamin C is very, very brightening. We use 2 different forms of vitamin C. And a lot of times it's hard to get vitamin C into the skin, right? Because often it will evaporate. If you don't have a great delivery system, it just doesn't penetrate very well. But this vitamin C is able to penetrate even more deeply with the effects of that oxygenation effect on the skin. So you get vitamin C a little bit deeper into the skin. Vitamin C is a really good melanogenesis inhibitor, which means that it slows down the melanogenesis process, right? The way that the skin makes hyperpigmentation. And pigmentation in general, of course, is normal, right? We all produce pigmentation, but when we have hyperpigmentation, like what I have on the back of my hand here, solar lentigo from excessive sun exposure from years and years, or melasma, which is like pregnancy mask, or just freckles. People are born with a predisposition for freckles. Vitamin C helps to slow that process down a little bit, and it sets the clock back a little bit. So it's very, very brightening. It's also a really good antioxidant. So it helps to battle off some of the free radicals that you have going on in the superficial tissue, which also slows down the progress of hyperpigmentation and protects the epithelial cells. So how is it germicidal? Well, the H2O, as you just saw, the H2O comes in contact with the yeast in the product. And the yeast has an enzyme, right? And that catalyst helps to break down and separate hydrogen from oxygen, the reason why it bubbles up a little bit. And the good thing about this is that oxygen, right, or oxygenation helps to, first of all, destroy Propionibacterium on the skin, which of course, if you have breakouts, right, you've got P. acnes on the skin. It also helps to destroy Staphylococcus, both 2 different types of, anaerobic bacteria that hate the sight of oxygen. So when you create oxygen, it helps to, clear up breakouts a little bit. Also has a brightening effect. Also, this oxygenation effect helps to drive the other ingredients deeper into the underlying tissue. That's kind of the force that helps to drive it into the skin. It also contains silk proteins, sericin, which is made from a worm, a moth worm that, spins silk. And a lot of times in medicine, they also use this ingredient to help heal the skin. It's almost like, we know a scab is nature's Band-Aid, but this is almost like that. It helps to coat and cover so that skin cells beneath can heal better. It has a very rejuvenative or very rejuvenating properties to it. This mask is also hydrating. It contains high hyaluronic acid and also hyaluronate, two different types of hyaluronic acid with a different functional group. So one is a little more hydrating, one is a little bit more soothing. But we know that hyaluronic acid is water loving, right? It sits on the surface of the skin. It attracts moisture and water from the air, and it helps to hydrate and plump the skin topically. So the mask actually helps to force the hyaluronic acid a little bit more deeply into the skin, so you have deeper hydration. And then lastly, it's very multifaceted, lots of different actions here. And lastly, it is a pore minimizer. The kaolin, which is a white clay, it helps to diffuse edema. And when you diffuse edema in the skin, it actually helps to contract the follicle just a little bit. So it helps to smooth the skin, and it makes the follicles look smaller. It minimizes the appearance of the follicles.